Om Ganapate Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Always the chance favors a person whose mind is already prepared. Even our history is filled with so many stories of successful one. All these things shows only one thing, that chances only favored. That means fortune favors the prepared mind. For this sake, we have to make our own luck. We should not depend on our own luck because it is worthwhile. It's not just luck, it's born one. There are sometimes a stop loss plan also works out in this regard. So, totally basing on this, today I took the topic of chance favors the prepared mind. Let us go in detail. With prayer. Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedhase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaya Pataye Namaha. Chance favors only the prepared mind. Indeed, history is filled with stories of great discoveries through serendipity. As Douglas said, most advances require both insight and good fortune. In his talk about how scientific discoveries are made, biology is a field that has a particularly interesting history involving good luck, as many discoveries initially depended upon the contamination of samples, including Lewis' work on immunology and Alexander Fleming's work on antibiotics. However, as a Pasteur pointed out, that opportunities granted by chance are only harvested by a prepared mind. Years of training, dedication, and even failure are necessary to prepare the mind. The sentiment of humanity or the sentiment of humility is echoed by most respected Nobel laureates. Laureates recognize the place of failure in success is that it generally precedes success. Failure is not a lost cause if something can be learned from it, though, and this is what Nobel laureates have done. Intriguingly, modern physics or modern psychological research into failure and success has shown that those who succeed approach failure differently than those never try again and fail. One irony of life that this research has uncovered is how the universe is entirely indifferent to our struggles, but we are not. It turns out that those who perceive themselves as successful often over attribute the origin of success to their own work, while those who fail often blame their failure on outside forces. However, some Nobel laureates seem particularly humble, as if they have the innate wisdom for what to understand they could have been just another simple, unlauded researcher contributing to science. Nobel laureates want to get the message to current and future generations that you must learn from failure and be prepared when chances arrive. Life, viewed as a series of coincidences, is one magnificent opportunity. And this week in Lindau is one such opportunity for young researchers to connect with fellow scientists and gather knowledge from Nobel laureates. Let us think. Fortune favors the prepared mind. Let us see how. So, let us talk about this a little more in depth. We can truly believe that opportunities fall in your lap and that it's up to you to see them for what they are. That said, if you have prepared yourself for anything that might come, you are more likely to be able to jump at that opportunity than have to pass on it. The most obvious example is that of schooling. Not every area of employment requires advanced studies and others require extensive degrees. Knowing what might be expected of you on the career path you choose is important. Your choice is most important. The choice depends on what you are looking for from life, and we all reach that crucial point. It does not matter where you have started, though. You can pivot as often as is necessary. Most of the people who won the Nobel Prize or solved major problems for their community and got honored locally never started with that as the goal. They just prepared themselves for exactly what they wanted to accomplish and followed where the path took them. When you have new problems, you work your way through new solutions relying on the hard work you have done in the past. In this regard, you have to make your own luck. I went to college, I first majored in theater before moving over to psychology. I have several friends who make their living as actors and curious some who have their degrees and others who never finished. It was not necessary. They had natural skills and they were prepared for any important role that might be asked of them. The first time the opportunity to work arrived, they jumped in with both feet. That said, many other career paths do require further education. Knowing that piece of information will put you in a much better position to be successful. If you want to be a teacher, you will need a formal education. If you want to be a successful salesperson, all the schooling in the world don't help if you don't have that natural charisma. Every situation will require its own skill set. So be sure you know what you are getting yourself into, even if there is an uncertain future. If further education is not for you, go learn a trade. Go to bartending school or apprentice with someone who owns their own construction company. Be the hardest worker that they have ever met. Don't let yourself get stuck because if nothing changes, nothing changes. Next, chance favors the prepared mind and meaning. Kevin Costner has made statements about how you don't need to be the smartest or most handsome person in the room, but you should never let anyone outwork you. When people see that you are prepared and driven, opportunity often knocks your door. To be clear, this does not only apply to employment. Being prepared for relationships, major purchases, really anything, will put you in a better position for luck to find you. When she met her husband, we were 14 years old. They met on the first day of our freshman year of high school. There was always something special between them, and they even dated for 2 months before they broke up. But they remained friends for 10 years. They each dated other people and had several serious relationships along the way. When she moved back to Chicago after college, we had a conversation about trying a real relationship, and the rest in history. It's not just luck. He has always felt that it was lucky that they met. Lucky that on that first day of freshman year, they were in 7 out of 9 classes together. Lucky that they had remained friends for all those years. What they learned in the interim, though, was what they wanted out of a partner and what they did not. What they would accept in a relationship and what was a deal breaker. If you are going to make a plan, you have to make assumptions. Assumptions are things like the expected rate of return, the amount of risk, the time for a particular event or investment, and are based off facts we know. If all goes according to plan, then everyone's winner. However, not many things go exactly as planned. Contingencies are measures taken to allow flexibility in a plan in order to achieve the same results as intended. A contingency in financial planning would be to prepare for a possible job loss, disability, new baby, inheritance, and so forth. Many of those changes can be addressed without too much pain or change while staying close to your original targeted goal. Now, a stop loss plan. A stop loss is your hero. When all hell breaks loose, a family's primary income earner dies. A home burns completely to the ground. A major car accident requires the amputation of an arm. These are examples where a complete plan would include insurance to limit the overall potential loss to you. Insurance is a pillar of financial planning. As you have heard me express over and over through the years, as it only takes one small mistake to potentially break the financial house down. Over the past several years, I have provided financial roadmaps or plans to many families, divorces, and widows who are seeking advice on securing their financial future. These plans typically cover taxes, estate planning, retirement, risk management, and insurance, investments, and education funding. Clients then use this as a guide to follow and measure up to as they pursue their personal financial goals. If you have recently spoken to a colleague or a friend who is leaving their financial house to chance, kindly let them know that even Louis Pasteur knew that chance favors only the prepared mind. Nature gets in the way of even the most carefully controlled experiments. When what happens, one can either discard the results and start all over again, or one can learn from a transgression. Mold growing on a plate of staples led to the greatest accidental discovery of our times, that of penicillin. Similar unintended consequences apparently led to the development of microwave ovens and erectile dysfunction drugs. Though not in the same league of greatness, the description of secondary bacterial infection in the previously described experimental rhinoviral infection model by Malia and colleagues in this is of journal is an intelligent way of learning from unintended consequences. Their observations extend what has been described for other respiratory infections, that a preceding viral infection can lead to a secondary bacterial infection, and also provide us some mechanistic insights specific to exacerbations of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, relationship between influenza and bacterial pneumonia, and a viral cold leading to bacterial sinusitis and otitis media are familiar and well described clinical scenarios. A similar viral bacterial continuum was suspected in exacerbations. However, previous studies, because they were not of experimental infections and did not have repeated intensive sampling during the course of illness, had been only able to demonstrate co-infections rather than a sequential process. Alternatively, these pathogens newly acquired from the upper airway or the environment, as has been described in naturally occurring exacerbations. Pathogens were not present in samples obtained prior to viral inoculation, suggesting that these strains were new to the lower airway of the host. However, sophisticated molecular epidemiology is required to conclusively exclude the presence of low concentrations of the bacteria prior to the viral infection with techniques that not only identify bacteria at a species level but differentiate among bacterial strains. This study does have important clinical implications. It suggests that exacerbations that appear to be clinically viral at the onset but then have a prolonged course, relapse, or cluster together could represent secondary bacterial infections and should be managed appropriately. The observation that not only did the viral exacerbation improve spontaneously as predicted, even the ones complicated by secondary bacterial infection did the same is also relevant clinically. Patients with COPD. COPD means chronic obstructive pulmonary disease often have unreported exacerbations, and these episodes negatively impact health status. This study raises the possibility that some of these unreported exacerbations represent mild viral and bacterial infections. Treatment and prevention of exacerbations has become one of the major goals of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease management. This study suggests that effective prevention or treatment of viral exacerbations is likely to reduce secondary bacterial exacerbations also. Current prevention of exacerbations has focused on non-specific treatments such as bronchodilators or inhaled corticosteroids rather than on inventories that would reduce the rate of airway infections. Such therapies reduce the clinical impact of airway inflammation engendered by airway infections but may not be changing the basic biological process that underline exacerbation reduction without a major impact on the loss of lung function and on health status. It is time to focus the therapeutic development on specific augmentation of innate and adaptive lung defense mechanisms to reduce exacerbations in the form of effective vaccines, antimicrobial peptides or peptides, augmentation in COPD without significant immunosuppressive effects could improve airway homeostasis and defense mechanisms and reduce exacerbations. Undoubtedly, studies such as this one by Malia and colleagues are invaluable in moving the field forward and making us rethink over conventional notions about exacerbations. There is another nice thing about time. It's a medium in which luck can occur. Luck, both good and bad, plays a part of every life. Though people tend to imagine that the good luck is a consequence of personal merit, while the bad luck springs from some malevolent outside source. Be that as it may, luck generally takes time to find us, and we are in a better position to recognize and seize the luck if we have logged some effort getting ready for it. As Louis Pasteur said of his seemingly serendipitous scientific discoveries, chance favor the prepared mind. Needing a break from the keyboard, I grabbed a bucket and some sponges and went outside to wash my dinged up Volkswagen Rabbit. It was a mild, sunny day, a fairly rare event for San Francisco, and people were out strolling, gardening, or just sitting on the stoops. A neighbor with whom I would have nothing more than a nodding acquaintance happened by. He stood there. I soaped and rinsed the car. I felt a little bit like Tom Sawyer whitewashing the fence. We chatted, and the course of conversation, he asked me what I did for a living. When I told him I was a struggling composer, he suggested that I get in touch with his son in law and an animator who was always in need of music. How often do you contribute to meaningful moments for the people around you that divide their life into before and after encountering you? Moments that cause a shift in people's perspectives in life. Life is filled with those defining moments like epiphanies and creative insights, but only for the eyes that are open to see them. Don't get me wrong, we are not chasing after events. I don't mean that you should be throwing bombastic parties for people. That would not be sustainable. What I am after misted are the potential moments that cause transformational shifts in the character of human being. It's about the people, heroes on a journey who are crafting a new kind of life and the change they go through that is fascinating to me. Life is filled with those defining moments like epiphanies and creative insights, but only for the eyes that are open to see them. The American artist Lilane Legend came to change the subject of her art to prisons just by catching a moment of fantasy play of light in the streets of Paris. This is one of the good experience in one's life. There are three elements of luck. I have learned that there are essentially three elements of luck. What are they? Preparedness, chance, and opportunity. What is meaning of preparedness? A defined plan is a controlled thought process that is intended to find a defined result. Number two, uncertainty, chance is about change. For example, estate laws and the income tax laws are constantly changing. New investment ideas and products are constantly coming on board. There are many new elements of wealth management that surface every day. Third, opportunities. As positive changes in our business take place, then opportunities arise. You need to be prepared for them. People often look at a successful situation and conclude that luck have occurred. True, luck happened. But it's really about being prepared for opportunities. Just as like Pasteur, Fleming, and other great innovators created luck for themselves. Chances come along and you are prepared for them. Opportunities pop up and you take an advantage of those opportunities. We see this frequently with successful families who seem to create their own luck again and again. Let us go for conclusion. Speaking of change, we know that 4 out of 5 successful families are actively seeing new advisors. Consider it an opportunity that is just come up for you and be prepared to take advantage of it. श्रीकांताय कल्याण निधे निधेन्द्राम श्री वेंकटनिवासाय श्रीनिवासाय मंगलम मंगल शासनपरय मदाचार्य प्रभु में सर्वेश पुरोहिताचार्य सत्कृतायास्तु मंगलम.